Erdinger Oktoberfestbier.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is one that I've tried before, and seeing as it's October, we might as well carry on with the Oktoberfest theme. Now, I didn't like this when I first tried it, and I've seen a few reviews since of this beer and everybody's raving on about it. I don't get it, to be honest. However, it was probably 2 years ago since I last tried it. I've decided to try it again for two reasons. A, it was cheap and it was in Aldi at the time. And B, I've never liked Erdinger. I've never liked anything they've done. I've reviewed quite a few on the channel. I've done the wheat beer twice. I've done the Picantus that they do. I've done the Dunkel that they do. And all three of them, in my opinion, were flavourless, very, very gassy, and just not nice, if you know what I mean. They don't taste like the wheat beers normally do. I don't get big aromas and big flavours of banana and clove, which is what I would expect in a Bavarian wheat beer. You've got to remember Erdinger, I should say, are from Erding in Bavaria. I'll get onto that in a minute. A little bit of history for you. I know I bore the shit out of you with the history, but it's my bag, if you know what I mean. But for a wheat beer brewer that's coming from Germany, and it's specifically Bavaria, I want to taste banana and clove in a wheat beer. It's traditional. Now, I know there are a couple of exceptions. There's a brewery in North Germany called Bolten. No, they're not from Lancashire, they're from Germany. Bolten, and I've reviewed the beer on the channel. And instead of using the normal Weißbräu yeast, they've used Altbier yeast, and it was a very, very strange beer indeed. For me, it didn't work. However, I do think Bolten are one of the best Altbier brewers in Germany, and there are a few good ones to choose. If we're just talking off the top of my head, Schumacher Alt is absolutely fantastic. Fuchsen Alt is quite good. Schlöscher Altbier is quite good as well. The other stuff, Diebels, is okay, and the other Altbiers after that, some of them have been taken over by Carlsberg, and they're not great, to be honest. But I think the top ones for me are Erdinger. There's another good one. Erdinger, I should say, get it right. Erdinger, I think, are a fantastic one of the best. I also like Bolten. I think they're absolutely fantastic, may even be the best. But Fuchsen and Schumacher Alt are traditionally, well, they're purveyors of the style. That's what they pioneered. And I think it might have been Schumacher that actually pioneered the term Alt beer or old beer, if you know what I mean. But we're not talking about Alt beer today. I've gone way off topic. Let's get back to this beer. This is Erdinger Oktoberfest, or Oktoberfest beer. And a little bit about Erdinger, or Erding, I should say, the place where they're from. It's a very agricultural place. It was absolutely devastated twice during the 30 Years' War. Swedish troops absolutely ransacked it, as they did large parts of Bavaria. And I've mentioned this in a few of the videos about Bavaria. Bavaria really did suffer, and Germany did in general suffer the 30 Years' War. The rampaging Swedes sacked the place basically, and killed a lot of the inhabitants and pillaged it. And yeah, as I say, the 30 Years' War is probably one of the most destructive wars up until World War II. Now, if you're talking about World War II, Erding managed mostly to survive the bombing. However, in 1945, there was a military airfield that was based in Erding, and in 1945 it was bombed by the Allies. massive amounts of damage were done, and a lot of the inhabitants were killed as well. I think that was the only time it was really pounded. But I think the fact that there was a military airfield there, I think they got off quite lightly, because if that was a known target, then any industrial target or any military target, especially big railway junctions, big armaments factories, the Ruhr in particular, that had the crap bombed out of it by the RAF and by the US Army Air Force as well, all through the war. And I think if you've got something like a military airfield there, and were only bombed once in the entire course of the war, you were doing relatively okay. In 1950 is another bit. The airfield must have still been there, because in 1950, 3 planes, I think they were Douglas DC-10s, which were the transport planes. I think they're the Dakota planes. 3 of them were hijacked, and they managed to land in Erding. And you got to remember, this is the time after the war, and you had the Iron Curtain went up, the Berlin Wall, etc. And the inhabitants basically defected to West Germany. That's how much the communist regime agreed with them. But there are places in Bavaria which also had their mini Berlin Walls as well. We went to a place called Hof, which is in North Franconia, and not too far from there is what's known as a miniature Berlin Wall. It had the watchtowers and everything, and it was the demarcation line between the Czechoslovakia, or East Germany. It was Saxony, Thuringia, which was part of the GDR, and the bordered on Franconia. And there was a miniature wall set up there. Terrible times, and that's what communism does. It's a very oppressive regime. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Anyway, we're not going to rant about politics today. We're going to get onto this beer. As I say, I got this from Aldi. It was available there. I don't know whether it's still going to be there. If it is, it wasn't too expensive. I think it was about $1.99. I'm not sure. Could be wrong on that, but it wasn't that expensive. And if you're going to buy it from somewhere, I'd buy it from there. Now, as I say, I did try this before. Didn't really get on with it, to be honest. I think the fact is, it's because it doesn't taste like a traditional wheat beer. And I love wheat beers. And if a wheat beer is calling itself a wheat beer and it doesn't taste as a German wheat beer should, now I'll make an exception for the Belgian stuff, the Belgian Wit, that's a completely different animal. But German wheat beer, I want banana and clove. And if it hasn't, I want to know why. One thing this has got going for it, and they mention it on here, is the Bavarian double maturity method. What is that? That is known as the Bayerische Edelreifung, which is basically a double maturity method. How is that done? Well, basically they do the normal fermentation, and afterwards they add fresh yeast and wort into that already fermented beer. They store it for 3 weeks. They don't pasteurise it, and in them 3 weeks, that's where you get even more flavour intensity, and you get a lot more of that carbonic acid, which produces the bubbles. Now, as I say, this beer is very, very gassy. All their beers I've found are gassy, and that's why I'm not really a fan of Erdinger, either on draft, on keg, or whatever it is, or in the bottle, I should say. So, yeah, I'm very wary about this beer. People have said it's good though. I've seen a lot of people commenting you should try the Erdinger Oktoberfestbier, and I did try it once, didn't really like it. So let's see how it compares. Has my palate changed, or has indeed Erdinger changed? Let's find out. Right, before we do, I'll give you a quick rundown on what this is. This is 5.7%. It's a 500ml bottle. Unfortunately, there is no brew sheet. Erdinger are very, very tight on that. All they will say is they've got their own well. They use fresh water. The yeast is unique, and it's the strain is grown in the brewery, and they use the best malt and the best hops. And that's as far as you're going to get with that. Conforms to the Reinheitsgebot. That doesn't really mean much to me at all. And that is about it, unfortunately. So you ain't getting a lot. Here's the label. Looks very traditional. And there you've got the stuff on the back. I was looking at a video the other day of the Oktoberfest actually in Munich, and it was fucking shocking. There was fights going off, people doing coke off a table, women fighting and all that. And it's just what happens when where people get pissed up. A lot of people from different cultures, different areas, and they just get fucking levered. And that's what happens. I did also see a funny video of a marching band who'd obviously been on the fucking sauce, and it was hilarious. They were worse than me when I've had a beer and I'm trying to play guitar. That's for another time though. Anyway, let's get this open. Let's see what's going on. Right, Erdinger do recommend that this is drunk out of a stone, how can you say a stone glass? It's not a stone glass. A stone drinking vessel. That is what is called a stein. These big glasses that you see, they're not steins, they're called Maß or Maßkrugs. So don't make that mistake. A lot of people call them big glasses, them big litre glasses, steins. Steins, I should say. They are not. They are Maßkrugs, as they are known in Germany. The stone vessels that people drink out of, as the name suggests, Stein in German means stone. They're made of stone. So there you go. Or stone. They're not made of stone. They're made of earthenware, if you know what I mean. Right, so I'm going to get the whole lot in here. And I'm just going to pour it like that. Because if I don't, too much carbonation gets out and it's very hard to get into the glass. Well, there it is. Now, if you look at that, it's relatively see-through. I'm not sure whether you're seeing this or not, but I need to get everything into that glass. I will say the flavours are quite strong and it does smell very grainy. That is not what I would expect from a wheat beer. I have to pour this all out. I can't do my usual of pouring a little bit in and getting the aroma, because wheat beer, it all has to go in as one. And there it is in the glass. It's quite a light colour, we'll say that. But I don't know whether you can see the carbonation. But the carbonation is fucking massive. Let me get my phone, I'll give you an idea. Right, can you see that carbonation? It is fucking thunderous. Is that even an adjective for carbonation? But that's typical of Erdinger. Their beer is really, really high in the old carbonation stakes. So what are we getting on the nose? Not a fucking great deal. Quite a bit of grainy, cereally type smell. A little touch of spice, grassy spice, but grassy spice, is that even a thing? There isn't a great deal. I'm really struggling to get some aroma out of that. And you know what it means when you don't get much aroma. It's rare that the beer is outstanding, but I have been proved wrong on the odd occasion. But aroma wise, there ain't a lot. Anyway, as I say, the proof is always in the tasting. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. Firstly, a really aggressive mouthfeel with that carbonation. That is the one thing that does stand out. As for flavour, not a fucking great deal. Certainly does not taste like a Weißbier. Again, this is what I got the last time. Christ almighty. That doesn't even taste like a wheat beer. No banana, no clove. If anything, it tastes like a, I don't know, a macro brewed Keller beer, and not a very good one at that. Still no aroma. the big thing on this is the carbonation. It's just fucking insane. There's a slight bitterness to it. I think that's a slight hot bitterness, and like a grainy, almost bready type finish. Vague hints of spice in there, and that's about it. It is very insipid. However, I can see the appeal of this. If you're not a wheat beer drinker and somebody gave you that, that wouldn't be too obtrusive. I do get that not a lot of people, certainly your average lager drinker, doesn't really like wheat beer. The clove in there, the medicinal flavour that some people like to call that, it's a bit too much of a change from their normal lagers and, you know, their run-of-the-mill beers. Again, as I always say, I'm not doing that to look down on them. They've got their taste and that's fine. But for me, I do like me wheat beers, and I want wheat beers to taste like wheat beers. And coming from Bavaria and brewing this, and bear in mind, Erdinger are the largest wheat beer brewer in Germany, which is really surprising. Again, it comes back to my edict to it, if that's a word, that just because it's popular doesn't mean it's good, in my opinion. Again, I get why people would like this and why it's popular. It's not, the flavours aren't obtrusive. It's fairly inoffensive when it comes to flavour, i.e. there isn't much of it. Your average lager drinker wouldn't be too put out drinking that. Remember, this is a top fermented beer. The flavour just isn't there for me. And if people are sessioning this, then yeah, I kind of get it. I kind of get why they like it. Some people would have issues with sessioning wheat beer. Me personally, I wouldn't. I've done it many a time, and I really like it. I just love that banana and clove flavour when it's done right. However, for some people, that's just a little bit too much of an ask. And I say that because I remember the first time I tried wheat beer. Would you believe it was in a Wetherspoons? And would you believe it was a Tuca? And if I'm not mistaken, I think I might have stolen this glass that night. So that's how old that was, and that was in 2016. Did I say stolen? I should have said liberated. They were charging fucking stupid amount. They weren't actually. I'm trying to justify my kleptomania now. Well, they don't sell it anymore, so it would have been no use to anyone. They probably would have thrown it out. So I liken it to me doing my bit for the environment. What good is a broken glass to anyone? Anyway, let's dive in again. I'm fucking rambling. That's how good this beer is. It's making me confess my sins. It isn't a chuck down the sink job. It's just okay. It really doesn't stand out. If that was their, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they've done this Bavarian double maturity method and they're making big noises about it. I do question why they've bothered. If it was to get the carbonation, well, you've fucking definitely got that. However, if you're doing it to get the flavour, you've wasted it completely on that. And I think the reason being, and shoot me down if you want, the yeast that they've got is, as they say, it's grown in their own brewery. I think when you have to grow it on such a big scale as to be the biggest wheat beer brewer in Germany, I don't know, maybe just the flavour isn't there. But I have to say, I'm not massively impressed with this. I'm not going to buy it again. I'm not going to buy Erdinger again. And Erdinger is widely available now in the UK. Almost every pub you go into have got it. And I think it's because it's distributed by Carlsberg. I think they must have some kind of deal there. but it's available over here quite easily. And yeah, just not really for me, if you know what I mean. I would much rather drink an English beer. Say if I was in a Wetherspoons or something and they had Erdinger, I'd see what was on the guest ale tap and get that instead. Saying that, this Oktoberfest beer is slightly better than than their flagship wheat beer, and also their Dunkel as well, which was virtually tasteless as well. This has got a bit going for it. It's quite full-bodied. That carbonation has calmed down a little bit now, but it's taken quite a long time to calm down, and it's still there. I mean, it's not as bad as it was, but it's still going for it. Flavour profile, quite grainy. Trying to get a bread type finish on it that just isn't happening. There's a very, very insipid amount of hop spice on that, and not a great deal else. Head is still there, although not as big as I would have thought it was with all that carbonation. I know I keep going on about the carbonation, but can you see it? And that does translate to the mouthfeel as well. And I'm not a fan of over gassy beers. And in between this, if you see a few jumps in the video, it's me burping. And that's one thing I fucking hate, is when people are reviewing beer and they let out fucking big burps. Don't fucking do that. That's fucking horrible, that is. Just fucking turn away. Oh, rant over. Okay, I've had a shit week, I've had. Look at this fucking bollocks. That's a speeding ticket. Another fucking 100 quid and 3 points. I was doing 57 in a 50. I wasn't going mental. It was an open road. It was on a Sunday morning. And it was some fucking little tosser in a van. Gits. And I was sober as well. I don't fucking drink and drive. That's just fucking bollocks. But I didn't even have a hangover. And I never do that. I don't drink when I've got I don't drink when I've got hangovers. Of course I do. I don't drive when I've got a hangover. Well, I try not to anyway. But yeah, that's another 100 fucking nicker down the Swanee. Cheers, Kent Police. Yeah, fucking tossers. What else has gone wrong? Shit day at work. Fucking everything that's gone wrong. NSX VMware, if you're familiar with it. Oh, Christ. Give it up. What else? Oh, yeah, my missus's auntie, her dog, she had a rescue dog. And it was an old rescue dog, and she got it. She only had it 3 or 4 weeks, and it had to be put down. Had a fucking tumour, a massive tumour that wasn't detected by the vets, and yeah, she was absolutely gutted about that. What else? Well, that's about it, really. Yeah, can't complain, really, can I? In the grand scheme of things, I had to go at IT support at work the other day. I know I do work in IT, but I was trying to log in, and we do use this thing called two-tier authentication, and it wasn't working, and they wanted me to get permission off my line manager to log in. It was a security policy, and I had to go at the person. I shouldn't really do that because I used to work in IT and I know what it's like. So if you're watching this, which you probably aren't, in the words of Husker Du, I apologise. Oh, and that's it. That's my week. It is Friday. It is 5 to 5, and it's not fucking crackerjack. It's not actually. It's what time is it? It's 7:15. Fuck me, is it 7:15? Nights are getting dark now, and see, this is what this beer is doing to me. That's how interesting it is. I'm not talking about the beer, and I suppose it sums it up really. Right, final thought. Yeah, it's full-bodied. There's a little bit of a grainy, bready malt finish, which isn't big. Slight hop spice, bit of an aggressive mouthfeel, bit too carbonated for me, and yeah, not fucking great. If considering this is an Oktoberfest beer that you've used the double Bavarian double maturity method on it, and it's your Oktoberfest beer, Erdinger, you've got to do fucking better than that. So what is the verdict on Erdinger Oktoberfest beer? Well, revisit my other video that I've done 2 years ago and you'll probably get the same conclusion. It ain't that great, to be honest. And as I was just in between the sections, I was thinking, when I picked this up in Aldi's, there was a crate of this stuff and there was a crate of Spartan as well. And I would say, you know, if you're in Aldi's and it's a toss-up between Erdinger Oktoberfestbier and the Spartan, Helles, go for that, because this really ain't that great at all. I can't see where this would fit in, because if you're a big fan of Weißbräu, in the same shop, I think they do Franziskaner. Franziskaner is another one that's available all over the place. It ain't the best wheat beer in the world, but it ain't the worst. I'll drink Franziskaner. You know, a cold Franziskaner on a warm day is not too bad. It's sweeter than your average wheat beer, in my opinion, but it don't taste that bad. It's quite nice. But this stuff, it's just nondescript. I get why people like it, because some people don't like that clove medicinal type flavour. So I can see there's a place for it, but it ain't for me. Having said that, it's not the worst beer in the world. So on the strength of that, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And I'm not going to go any higher than that. To be honest, I'm not really going to recommend it, because, as I say, there's better choices where you would buy this. And unless you're a really big fan of Erdinger and what Erdinger do, and you've tasted this stuff before and you really like it, then obviously know what you're getting yourself in for. But if you're not a fan, I would say go for maybe the Schneider Weißfestbier, even the Weihenstephaner, normal Weiss, and you'll run rings around this stuff. It's just very, very boring, very run-of-the-mill, unfortunately. I can sort of half understand why it's the biggest, or they're the biggest wheat beer brewer in Germany. It's for people that don't like the traditional taste of wheat beer, in my opinion. It's more, less offensive, less flavoursome, no banana, no clove. So, yeah. I mean, it still is a wheat beer because it's brewed with wheat, but, yeah, not in the traditional sense. So I think 5 out of 10 is the best you're going to get out from me. If you want to try it, try it. Might still be an Aldi, don't know. But there you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.